Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. I was lost it there for a
Good
second.
morning, Mike. I'm here. Don't worry. I'm there. Yeah, I got you.
Ooh, I almost made a mistake. That could have been bad. Like,
Oh, the beauty
where
of
am
doing
I?
it live.
What am I doing? Yeah.
Is this training? Are we at a conference? I don't know anymore.
It's been a long week. A lot of things have been happening in the market, but before we get into the news and the topics for today, let's just give out our topic today. Tommy, this is an interesting question, and usually someone teased us one time about, anytime you have a question, it's a rhetorical question. It's like, no, the answer is always no. So this is a rhetorical question, I guess, and we're just going to unpack this topic. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this will be different. Is Microsoft Fabric actually business intelligence? That's what we're going to go talk about now today. So, I think this is a good topic. I think, Tommy, you're making a really good point around this one, or the idea or the concept is there's so many things. We're not just doing BI anymore. We're not just doing reports. So many other things inside Fabric that's happening. Has the scope of Fabric expanded what business intelligence is doing? Be interesting. I like this is going to be, where do we draw the line in the sand? Or is there any lines? Or is it just more sand? I don't know. We'll see.
Way to run with that analogy.
I have no clue.
The water coming up from the beach. Who knows?
Don't care. We just pile on more sand. It's fine. It's all good. just make more sand. So we'll see how this goes. Anyways, let's jump into some news items here. Tommy, take us away. You, Tommy, have been very busy. You did a user group yesterday.
Yeah, baby.
In Chicago, downtown. That was on October 1st. How'd it go?
Dude, it was awesome. So it was a crash course on Microsoft Fabric. And honestly, it was amazing because we get the mailbags. We hear from you guys about very consistently a theme we hear from everyone is we would love to do Fabric. We like the Fabric topics, but our organization is slow to adopt. Yeah. And the first thing that I asked everyone was, have you experienced in Fabric? They're like, we all want to, but everyone, our organization's either testing it or, they're still kind of weary of fully implementing it. They don't know what to do with it.
Interesting.
But so everyone who came was interested in wanting to see Fabric. And it was cool because we basically we called it the end-to-end solution under an hour. Lakehouse did transformations in a notebook, showed for a lot of people actually at the user group did SQL or a lot of SQL work. So I showed
it runs the world.
It was amazing to see everyone's just face kind of like their jaw just dropped, like, oh, it's a SQL database. It's kind of like, what? No, it is one. And we went to SSMS and then we did a query there. So we saw what you could do. Oh, then we can create views. And we went through the SQL Analytics endpoint. And then we showed Direct Lake and showed how quickly that was. And what was cool, where everyone really, I think, was most impressed with Fabric was I can edit a Direct Lake model in desktop and also in the browser.
Yes.
And I had both open. So I created a measure in each and you saw how quickly they were reflected.
Yes.
And the real kind of takeaway was even if you just use Fabric for the OneLake to Direct Lake integration, you're getting your money's worth, bar none kind of thing.
Yep.
And that was for everyone, at least from what I saw, where everyone was like, oh,
I get it now.
Yeah, this is kind of
clicking.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, and then we did the prep for AI. We did a few things there. Everyone also loves the get the answers, so to speak, where I pick a visual and say, hey, suggest some questions here so that it helps Copilot. And so we did the prep for AI in less than 10 minutes. I went to the Copilot standalone and simply said, hey, for this report, how's my salespeople doing? It was conversational and showed it wasn't the QA. Perfectly how we prepped it. It gave me, I did test drive this beforehand to make sure it would work, but
sure.
It was amazing that I didn't have to ask a lot of context once you prep things. We've talked about training AI a ton.
Yes.
And one thing we're also going to do here, so check, if you're a part of the meetup, please check your email today because we're actually going to send out a poll. And it's going to be around all the features in Fabric because we covered 20% of what Fabric can do, and we want to get from you guys. What do you want us to talk about? We will be doing the user group every month in person. We weren't able to do it in like the live stream, but that's something we're working on. It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work to do all that. So,
and that was, I'll say this from
me. No.
It was a lot of work on you, but it was also, I was supposed to help support out that one. I just got too busy with stuff this week. I'm traveling next week. It just got to be too much. I was like, I can't get everything done all in the same time.
Yeah,
I need the bandwidth.
So
I got that also didn't help either.
Yeah.
So I was planning on the wrong day, and like 3 days before time, he's like, "Wait, it's the wrong day." I'm like, "What do you mean it's the wrong day? Switch it." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm booked out with meetings and things."
So Tommy made a mistake. But no, honestly, thanks for asking. It was a great time. It's great to be in front of people, and also just that different environment. If you've never gone to a user group, you really got to join one, because it's not just a session. At least our user groups are not just someone talks and then we're done. It's like we really try to encourage them. We get to know each other and understand what their situation is. So,
Yep.
dude, it was awesome, and I'm so excited
Excellent.
to start that up again.
Great. Awesome. I'm looking forward to getting back in with you as well. We'll have to do a little bit of volleying back and forth. Chicago will do one every month. We'd like to also kick up one again back in Milwaukee as well. So if you're in the Milwaukee area, we'd also like to get one going here a bit and find some businesses. The downside is in the Chicago area, well, good upside for Chicago, downside for Milwaukee. Upside in Chicago is you still have the Microsoft office. There's still one there. They shut down ours in the Milwaukee area, and that's typically where we would meet. We'd meet with someone there. We'd get a room inside that place, be able to communicate, had internet, had decent facilities, you can get there and hang out. So since we don't have one of those anymore, we got to figure out what the next pattern looks like, and if we can find businesses that can help support at least the locations as well. So we'd like to kind of ramp that back up again and keep going. And in both cases, Tommy and I both are committed to trying to get, it may not be the best recording, but we'll try to do the best we can to record these live events. We've been acquiring gear and technology to help us actually broadcast and send these things out as well. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can kind of stitch everything together here and bring a little bit of a mobile studio with us whenever we do these groups.
We're geeky too. We like the technology. So
100%. 100%. I love buying the technology. So let's move on to a couple other things here. So we have some other news items. Tommy, you've got a couple other news topics here that we want to touch on. First one here, simplifying data ingestion with copy job, parameterization, expanding CI/CD connectors. Wow, that's a mouthful. This is quite the topic here. This is what so let me just say this as an observation, Tommy. I don't know if you feel the same way here. I feel like when Fabric came out, it was like a lot of like fanfare. It was very exciting. Everyone's like, oh, great, let's go try this thing out. And it very quickly ran into like just a lot of like technical debt is what I'll call it. And for the next, 6 months, 9 months, there was a lot of things just kind of like getting reworked, just being rebuilt. And then all of a sudden, I feel like over the last 3 months or so, maybe in the last 2 months, it's very recent. It feels like the floodgates have reopened and all this technical debt and like Microsoft restructured a little bit. There's, who's on what team, what's important right now. Let's get the priorities straight. Is everything going to be built with CI/CD incorporated? Yes or no? Like there was all these like really large rocks to lift. And I feel like we've gotten over this initial threshold of like, a lot of those initial large rocks are being removed. And so I feel like, I don't know what it is, but just one around Data Flows Gen 2, that was one of the areas where I was like, there's just so much missing. There's so many missing features. And all of a sudden at FabCon, they announced like new compute engine, better parallel processing, better speed in the browser, all these things that are like, okay, yes, this is what we were asking for, but that must have been just a really large rock to move. And now we're starting to see a lot more features come out quickly, which are more creature comforts, refinements, making the tool better and easier to use. I'm just an observation. Do you feel the same way? Let me ask that question first.
Not only do I feel the same way, I think we've had a part to do with that, honestly, Mike. So,
well, I mean, I don't think anyone from Microsoft really listens to us that intently. But.
No, not at all. Not at all. Trust me, not at all. We're happy that you're here, whoever you are. Microsoft. But no, I think the biggest thing.
Your mom still favorites.
My mother, hi mom, kind of.
She still comments on the podcast. And, hey, mom, she's probably listening to this one right now. If she would,
what the sad thing?
What would she say right now if she was listening to the episode at this point?
Because you're so funny, kind of thing. You're so funny, and it's like, and that doesn't mean nothing for your brother, kind of thing. She's like, so. And I love what you did with the backdrop. Did Sarah do that? That's all. It's only So that's what she would say. So
I just get teased incessantly from my family. They're always like, Dad keeps talking about data, and they just walk around the house just going, data lake, data lake. All he says is data lake. Like. They just tease me. Like, they do. They mock me. That's it. They mock the hand that feeds them. I don't know what's going on here.
No, I probably have an inflated head because like if they watch like Dude Perfect, that to them is TV, right?
Yeah.
Well, next to that suggestion is the podcast.
Yeah,
So they're like,
exactly.
oh, dude, perfect. Explicit measures. Not having any
Okay.
idea we're not worth $750 million.
When you scroll through your feeds and you see our video, do you sit there and actually watch it? The whole
The
thing?
shorts,
Yeah.
I do. So, well, I do it more to say, what can we do better? I'm always thinking on like, okay, that joke didn't land. Let's not go that way again, kind of thing. And just the topics, what topics work. But no, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy it. I enjoy the conversations, and it helps me. And if it helps me, great, kind of thing. Helps you, even better. So,
I
but
do
no,
agree with
I
that.
think going back to your point, man, like I think what this whole copy job and the other news topics are all around conversations you and I have had, and if we're
It feels
having
like
them, I know others are having this
it feels like we're getting
around.
unblocked. Yeah,
Mhm,
100% agree.
mhm. And it's good to know it's not just great features that they're updating.
Yep.
It's like they're hearing the community as a whole understand, well, these are the deal breakers. These are the blocks. We're not going to use it unless X, Y, and Z is done.
I'd agree.
So whoever's leading that direction, kudos. Absolute kudos to that with the copy job. The Gen Flow updates are incredible.
Yes, agree. All right, let's go unpack this article
Yeah.
then. So simplifying data ingestion with copy job. All right, talk me through what you think here is interesting, Tommy.
So it's the biggest thing. It's the copy job feature with the nice user interface. We've talked about that, but some of the major highlights here is CI/CD support,
Mm-hmm.
CDC capture data or change data capture support.
Sure.
We have new data source and destinations. So SAP HANA, folders, Cassandra, Oracle with Amazon RDS, Amazon Access. Okay, but
I mean, there are
yeah,
some
sure,
companies that
great kind
still
of
live
thing.
on that one. Like,
Yeah,
okay, not
incremental
recommended.
right, but even SFFT, FTP, MySQL, Oracle Cloud Storage. So these are, and this is important. The reason for me, the biggest thing I'm focusing on is the source and destination,
Yep.
because the user interface is already great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to get more and more people adapted, part of what Power BI made it so rapidly adopted was out of the box on day one. I think it had over 130 data sources that
Mm-hmm.
were out of the box that were already packaged in. So it made it incredibly easy. We're not there with copy data. I know it's different, but you got to have these things supported or ways to support them. So to me, that's the huge win here.
I love it. And there's a whole bunch of new mirroring items that are being added as well. So that this is just, again, all of this makes a ton of sense. I really like what they're going with this one. Copy job is the ability of like, look, there's a common pattern. I'm going to bring data over. Some of the data will change. Some of the data will not. Make it efficient. Just make it easy. And I think this is good. I like this feature. I think this is really going to be useful. Also, you'll notice here there's another note here around CA/CD report as well. So variable libraries is also something that's incorporated here. A variable library, I think, is extremely powerful for organizations who are really trying to start building process around what they're building inside Fabric. Right? I need to be able to have a dev, a test, a production environment, and there are some things, variables, parameters, options that have to change across those interfaces.
Yeah.
You have to be able to build in dev, use these things called variable libraries, and to incorporate parameter changes, and then as you deploy between different environments, the variable library can pick it up and switch out different connection strings, switch out different database names. Like that's the intent of it. So I really like
100%.
where they're going with this. This makes a ton of sense to me.
100%, man. So it's really, dude, it's so exciting to see that. And Mike, I want to talk about these data flow articles that came out, and I'm going to kind of combine the two here. But there are two articles that came out from Microsoft on what they've done with data flows. And to your point, Mike, they are from the FabCon in Vienna.
Yep.
One is around data transformations, and this is called unlocking the next generations of data data transformers in Gen 2.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is titled around data destinations and experience improvements. And these are those articles that come out every so often that really do change, I think, people's behavior, or they're going to really make people come back to features. These are more than just, oh, cool, we've added a folder or we've added some destinations. What they've really done here that I think for you and I, and what has been our biggest agitation with data flows Gen 2 is the cost and the speed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, why would I use a data flow Gen 2 if I'm going to spend more? It's going to take more time. outside of the user interface. It didn't seem worth it to us on that cost benefit scale.
Mhm.
Well, they've done a ton of work here where they're smarter pricing with the GenFlow Gen 2 CI/CD with a cost-effective way based on query evaluation duration. So basically, if you have a query that runs for 20 minutes,
Hmm?
you're going to save 50% of cost. If you have one that runs for 10 minutes, 25% of cost. If you have one that runs an hour or around an hour, you're going to save 80% of your cost that you normally would.
Yep.
Holy crap, man. That's absolutely incredible. So you're just in 10 minutes, you're going to save a quarter of what you normally would. They
So
also run significantly faster.
this does two things for me here. So there's a couple things that I think that are interesting here in this last article. This is the last one I put in here. This is the one that's called "Unlock More Performance with Gen
Yeah.
2." It's interesting to me here. If I look at this, there is a premium to be paid for when you have like a clicky, simple interface to work on things. I get it. I understand, right? But to me, when I look at the pricing that they're kind of adjusting here, this really incentivizes two things. This incentivizes, one, for users that have long-running data flows Gen 2 jobs, it's going to incentivize Microsoft to get them done as quickly as possible from an incentive side, because Microsoft is making the max amount of, talk about like the volume of data or volume of money they're making. Like in those first 10 minutes, that window, the pricing's a little bit better, but not a whole lot better, right? It's basically the same. So for Microsoft, if they had a job that was typically running 30 minutes, again, talking about like the area under the curve, it actually incentivizes Microsoft to then make that job run. As soon as you hit the 10-minute mark, they want that job to go fast.
Right.
And that's typically bigger data, larger experiences. So it's up to Microsoft to optimize and tune that whole side of things. And so there's probably a lot of things happening like cost wise when you start up a job and spin up a VM and do some other calculations. So if you look at like when you look at a copying job experience, there's probably a lot of planning that happens at the beginning of the job. This is kind of what Spark does. And then once that's done, you can just kind of like set the plan and let it run. Right. And so there's potentially something there why they're doing that. But the graph that makes me really excited is the making data flows Gen 2 significantly faster.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like substantial amount of runtime here where they're talking about, they kind of talked about some things in different ways. They have data flows Gen 1, data flow Gen 2, no performance enhancements, data flow Gen 2 with the modern query evaluator, huge improvement. And then they have data flow Gen 2, modern query evaluator, and the parallelized execution.
Mhm.
This is like on bigger data though. So this is like talking about, but we're going from a huge amount of CU consumption down to a much smaller number.
Wow, yeah.
This I like. This is where we should have been. Like, I'd be nice to add this day one, but if I think about the scale of things, right? This, whatever we're building in Dataflow Gen 2 should cost less than doing it in Gen 1.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Right.
Like there should be no more conversation around that. That should be like a given. If I do things in other tools that have more code, I understand those tools might be slightly less expensive to run. But I got to do some testing on this. I got to figure out how this is going to work,
Right.
how it actually rolls out to me as a business. And what I really want to see is I want to see Dataflows Gen 1 the most expensive, Dataflows Gen 2 cheaper, more efficient, closer to notebooks, right? And if I run the same thing in a notebook, again, there's a lot of variables here that you can kind of like tweak and dial and tune things so it becomes cheaper. But I'd like to see it like 20 to 30% more than a notebook, because it is providing a UI that's experience that's cleaner. You don't charge me double, because that's absurd. Like I'm not going to, that's too far away from like where we should be price point wise, but you can charge me a little bit more than other experiences that are more code centric.
The other things I like here too, Mike, to your point, is there is also a concept here of this better skill in this is going to lead to better performance. So some of the things is when you actually do your parallel query partitioning or the modern query, the evaluation engine, which you can enable, turn off. But there's also another concept around preview only steps, which again, you can enable, which again, I kind of am happy that they're adding in features that are not just enabled by default, that you kind of need to know what you're doing.
Sure.
And again, because again, you can't idiot proof everything. And I know that that's a big push around this, and you can't. So the fact that there are a lot of options here that they're allowing, but not necessarily enabling by default, kind of is also too, for me as someone who's going to either hire someone or work with someone, know what you're doing here, which is going to reduce cost here as well. But
Yeah.
there's other features here, Mike. I just want to make sure that we mention. So there's expanded output destinations, Lakehouse CSV files, Azure Data Lake Storage, Snowflake, which you can now do as a destination, SharePoint and Excel, which are coming soon, OneLake catalog integration. There's schema support as well. There's better. So there's AI powered experiences with the get data improvements, which they really focused on is how to get data in. So Mike, I mean, there are so many features here more than just the cost that really show me how committed Microsoft is to Gen 2.
I would agree with that as well. I think there's definitely like real money being put behind this, real effort being placed to make this an efficient use case. One thing I just want to comment here on someone in the chat. So another gentleman in the chat who's got a beautiful name, by the way, Michael. Yes, great name, love it.
I thought it was going to be like Conciliano or something. So.
No, it's not Puglia. Sorry, there's no one in the chat named Puglia. Sorry, Tommy. So Michael makes a comment here. He goes, "Glad to see there's improvements coming for Data Flows Gen 2. He works in a smaller organization, isn't quite big enough to really see savings from Data Flows Gen 2 getting these performance improvements, but." He goes, for them, the right choice has been just work in notebooks. That saves them CU. And I want to be very clear here. Work with what your team works with best, right? And I would also argue here, especially to Michael's point, I love the fact that you're doing that. That's exactly the right thing to do. We should be using the tools at our disposal to make the most amount of data as efficiently and as low cost as possible. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do our job as the best we can quickly with the least amount of cost. That's 100% what you should be doing. What I'll also note here is I think there's even like a concept around if you have a smaller team and you don't have a lot of data engineering people, it's less of an investment for you to educate on, okay, we're just going to do notebooks because it's efficient. Like that's less of an investment for the time, the level of effort that it takes to educate that team. So because there's less people to train, you can do it faster. It's less cost to get people up to speed. When you're in a larger organization or you're really big and you've got a huge audience of people and you're constantly churning through like new people, not to say that you shouldn't be doing data flows or you shouldn't be using notebooks. I'm just saying the level of investment at a larger organization to educate, you got to put some real money behind this and actually have a process to get people into notebooks and doing these new things. Over time, let's use a term that Microsoft uses a lot, particularly Christian Wade, in the fullness of time, whatever that means, in the fullness of time, eventually everyone would ultimately be comfortable and already know how to do notebooks. They're already mature enough. Like it just becomes part of the world because it exists. It's easy to use. Some people start learning it and it just kind of spreads like a weed throughout the organization, right? So I do think there's something there. Oh geez, now Alex Powers is showing up. He's gonna correct me now. I can see
he
already.
knows that we're going to talk about this. Who's telling him that we're talking about Power Query? Does he have an alert? An AI
He must have
agent?
an alert. He's got an AI agent listening to please listen to the Explicit Measures podcast. And if they say data flows, let me know. I'm going to show up. So I just want to make the counterpoint here of just like, look, if you're in a smaller organization, choose what works best for you regardless. I think it makes sense. Your investment to learn all these different tools or learning which tools are most efficient for you is less of a barrier to entry, which I would argue with like larger organizations that need more skills or skilling up more to move people over to those notebook experiences. So I thought that was a really neat comment. Loved your comment, Michael. Really, really good idea there. I love the idea of so many tools. And that's actually going to lead very well into our main topic for today, which is actually, have we moved away from business intelligence and has Fabric pushed Power BI into something new that it wasn't before? So Tommy, maybe with that, do you have any more comments on Data Flows Gen 2? Do you want to go into the main topic now?
I think we need to get to the main topic here.
Yep.
I think we need
Alex is
to
right.
have there's a conversation that there's an elephant in the room and we need to talk about that elephant.
Alex is exactly right. He said, beep, boop, beep, boop, alert, data flows has been mentioned. I need to show up. So thanks, Alex, for joining. Awesome. All right, Tommy, give us the topic today. Is Microsoft Fabric even business intelligence anymore, or has it mutated into something different?
So, yeah, and honestly, this is one of those that came from yours truly's brain. And I haven't seen a lot of conversations around this, but to me, when I think of the normal definition of business intelligence, Power BI, Power Business Intelligence, and what the focus was there, and you look at the features that we're talking about today, I think there needs to be a conversation. We really do need to have this conversation around, does Fabric count as business intelligence? It has components of it, sure.
Mm.
But I think about this from an individual's point of view and a larger organization or the industry as a whole. If I'm working solely in all the features of Fabric, am I calling myself a business intelligence specialist? More importantly, if an organization's hiring or building a team to do Fabric, are they looking for people who are in business intelligence? This is the critical moment, I think, for us on the podcast. I think for people listening. And as you move on, how you build your resume and how people are looking for resources in Microsoft's data platform, that I think we need to have a hard conversation here. We need to have a so to speak, come to the water moment.
This is interesting, Tommy. So I have a couple. What I like to do is I like to try and find like similar analogies that seem to make sense to me in other maybe more defined industries potentially that would maybe help me allude to like what's happening here inside the Fabric world. I would argue like I try and think about like the manufacturing
Not an
sector.
easy one. Yeah.
It's not an easy one. I'm trying to think about like manufacturing, right? So let's think of our data like a product. You're building a car or you're building something complex, right? It takes a lot of different pieces from a lot of different places, right? I feel like this could be an analogy to like an assembly line to some degree, right? And we talk about data pipelines and like deployment pipelines, all these kinds of things. But if we think about data as a product that we're outputting, the output is well-defined models, understood data sets, and reports that people can interact with and get that into other tools to kind of look around and poke in the data, right? So that is the product that we're trying to produce. Now, if I go back to like the automotive analogy and like building a car and all these different things, when we build the assembly line of these cars, these products that we're pushing out, we have to go get the raw materials. We have to go get, shape those. We have to refine them. We have to enhance them, build specific wiring harnesses, make the doors, put the wheels out. All these different, there's so many industries that are attached to like building a car, but there's all these different, specialties. These people are, you could build a tire a number of different ways. You can build them in different countries. Like you can get them from wherever. So I feel like that analogy somewhat fits here as well. And would you take away the terminology of the assembly line? Would you call it anything else other than like manufacturing? So, manufacturing is like the broader term, but inside that term, you have like breaking down of like segments or areas or specializations. Like we have like the supply chain. Hey, I'm going to go get these particular materials and bring them to the assembly line at the right time. That's part of your supply chain. So there's a whole team of people dedicated to doing that part of the process. And then there's people on the line that are like bringing the doors together and assembling things, and we're programming robots and we're doing all these really interesting things. It's still part of the broader term called manufacturing, but now we're talking about specializing in certain areas to make the whole process more efficient. Okay, that's where my head goes when I think about this analogy of like the data product. Okay, so let's step back here a little bit and let's maybe bring it back home to what Power BI and what Power BI is doing. I think we've expanded. I would like to take the term. I think we have greatly expanded what business intelligence is. And I think I would probably step back and say, we probably aren't really building business intelligence anymore. We're probably building more like a data platform. So I think, and again, the reason I say this is because when I looked at what we were at before Power BI, like before Fabric, and it was just Power BI, it was a lot of like, if I needed really complex data engineering, if I really needed like specialized things, I was going to Azure for all that.
Right.
It was in Azure. It was in Synapse. It was something else I had to go build or buy in front of the Power BI ecosystem. Fine. So be it. It is what it is. But now I think what happened was, for me, the big moment was Microsoft embraced this Delta format, brought in a bunch of these open source Spark-like technologies, continue to refine them, making them more efficient. And when those came into Fabric, it gave liberty to pull in all these other products, real-time analytics with Kusto, SQL databases, data warehouses. And so back to Donald's going to give us a good hard time on this one, right? So Kimball talks about the data warehouse BI terms. There's a data warehouse attached with the business intelligence. It's all got to fit together. Can you do business intelligence without all the other things? Probably. Yeah. Will it be easier and faster? Probably not, I would argue.
So
one of the things I
yeah.
love about Fabric is it just integrates so easily between all the different tools. And I'll pause there. I said a lot of things.
No.
Tommy, what's your
Yeah.
reaction, Tommy?
There's a few. I'll briefly mention the one about the manufacturing one. The only thing I would disagree is you would be right in your now, at least with the definition of manufacturing and the components here. However, I think we would have to change the definition of what business intelligence is. Like I agree with the literal definition of manufacturing and those components.
Sure.
However, I actually agree with you with the data platform. I'm actually laughing because that's what I've actually been using when I've been talking to clients and projects. I've been straying away. I'm saying, no, it's the data platform that we're working in.
It's bigger than just BI.
Right. And so that's the first note that I wanted to have. The other note is we're mentioning here a lot around business intelligence, the warehousing and the data integration. We're expanding it. But that to me is then taking away what 40%. And I think the core function of someone in business intelligence is when you think of the definition. Like my job, ultimately, if I'm specializing in business intelligence, Mike, is to measure what matters, provide those measurements to an organization that they can act on that data. Now, you can argue there's a ton of components going into that, right? We have to have the clean data. We have to have that data integrated, yada, yada, yada. But the warehousing, the ETL, those are all parts of it. But it's really ultimately led just for really the reporting, and it's to provide that consumption. And all these other aspects that we're doing in Fabric can lead to that. Mm-hmm. But again, why have we been saying since Fabric's come out that we're combining 6 careers into one is because I don't think we're not saying that as a hot take. You have not junior versions of a lakehouse or diet versions of a warehouse in Fabric. So what I wanted to do, Mike, is I'm going to invoke our old co-host on the podcast who like to bring out a dictionary from time to time whenever there's a definition. And but I'm going to take this a step further. And I actually ran an agent to kind of scour the web on a definition around business intelligence.
All right, sounds good.
And perhaps this is actually a good place to start. So business intelligence, what is it? It's a comprehensive technology-driven framework that encompasses the strategies, methodologies, processes, and technologies used by organizations to collect, integrate, analyze, and present business data for informed business decision-making. At its core, BI transforms raw data from multiple internal and external sources into actionable insights that drive strategic, tactical, and operational business decisions. With that definition, which I think is to me a great definition here, and again, we are more than welcome to expand or contract that definition. But when I think of Fabric, there are parts of that are Fabric, absolutely. But Mike, let's go back to, just look at our previous episodes, what we've been talking around Fabric. I don't think a lot of them are touching that.
I would agree. I think I agree with your topic, and we're not touching on those topics. And I'm actually reading the chat here, so there's a lot of things going back and forth here. So Brad has appeared in our chat. So Brad, welcome.
Oh my God! Hey, Brad.
He was on the podcast just a little while ago.
The data warehousing, yeah.
The data warehousing. So I love that all these tools exist, and I think, Tommy, what was to me, and when I look at like where we were and where we're at now, what's changed? And again, I'm going to go back to this idea of like, before we had Power BI, let's go way back. Let's go back before Power BI existed. Like we would do things in other tools. There were certain programs you had to buy as an organization. The price point might have been very high. You could do some levels of transformation. You had to wait on other teams to build all this stuff out, right? So I look at it going, what we had done for Power BI, which is make the report building side of things, the business intelligence, and actually Donald uses another term here that I really like, which is decision support, right? We're doing decision support items. The reporting is helping make decisions, supporting those decisions. That is become a commodity. We can make it so much easier. The tool you need to use is free. You can build and explore and create. So the same thing that we're doing for the report, which was make reporting more of a commodity, again, back to Javen's paradox, right? If you make it easier to consume and lower cost to do it, everyone will just use it. it'll just become a given that everyone needs to use, and they'll need to use it to move forward. That's the same thing that it feels like occurring with me inside Fabric. It's the same idea. We've taken the data warehouse, we've taken this data mart warehouse concept, and it's becoming commoditized. It's easier to do it. All the tools work together. The barrier to entry before was I had to get my data factory to work with the lakehouse to how do you get it into SQL, and all the tools didn't quite talk together very easily, or if you did, you had to write a lot of code and just know what you were doing. Now it's a lot simpler. And so I think really, to me, the SaaSification, software as a service on top of all business intelligence, really works for me. And I think that's where we're moving to. So I would expand the term. We're still doing business intelligence, but we're expanding it also to data platform.
I'm going to disagree with you here, because I'm going to disagree specifically on the point around it's easier to do the reporting. It's a commodity. Mike, did Microsoft Fabric make reporting easier? Did it make building visuals and the right visuals easier?
Did Microsoft Fabric make those easier? No, that's been Power BI's job.
Exactly. And it's not just Power BI's job, but it's still the user's job, the creator's job to be skilled at that.
But what did you do before though? Like I would argue, like what was it? It was Excel and more effort to shape and lock in business data into the Excel sheets. So
you're saying before Power BI.
I'm talking the whole progression here. Like I'm looking at like the whole story and saying, if I see what the story did for the first 10 years with Power BI, and now I'm looking at Fabric for the next 10 years, I'm seeing the same pattern. Like I'm seeing it's the same rinse, wash, and repeat.
Yeah. So Microsoft, what Power BI did, when you think about that, the jump from Excel to Power BI, you took people who were much more in the business, and then you actually really created careers with Power BI. There were not as many. If you were either working in Tableau or you worked in Excel and a bunch of other things, right? Those were the distinction. You didn't hire an Excel data analyst specialist. That was not what people hired for, because you worked in a ton of other things. Power BI created careers. It created career paths for us, Mike. I mean, if Power BI didn't come out, we wouldn't be doing an Excel user group. We wouldn't. That's just the case. Power BI created a platform around a single career point of view, the business intelligence role, and basically took Tableau out of the water. It basically destroyed the stock in so many words. But there's a reason for that.
I think Salesforce destroyed
there's
Tableau.
Other factors. Here's the thing. They started getting desperate. They were getting desperate at that point. But there's a reason for that, because again, Microsoft created literal careers, teams, and departments that did not exist before Power BI. That's just the fact of it. And the thing is, with Fabric, that jump, it's not making me better at my skills around reporting and creating the measurements and doing DAX and semantic models. It didn't make it easier. I still need those skills. And those are still skills. If I'm hiring a business intelligence specialist, that if they know Fabric, great, and they do data integration, great. But if they don't know DAX and I almost use a word there, if they are subpar on data visualization theory and providing the right context and talking to the business, then it doesn't matter if they're great at Fabric. And that's where I think the divide is here. Now, there is an interdependent relationship between data engineering, data science, and business intelligence. That obviously. But if you're hiring, Mike, I need a business intelligence specialist, and 80% of their resume is around Fabric, and they do lake houses and notebooks, and they only have maybe 6 months of Power BI. That's not what you're looking for. I mean, for me, I'm kind of like, okay, well, that's not a business intelligence specialist. The only thing I'll say, and I'll run back to you here, or I'll hit the ball back to you, is part of me also thinks, are we even looking for that now? And this is where I don't want to say struggling with, but this is where I'm asking a lot of questions. For example, as a consultant, you got a lot of messaging. I work with recruiters to do, part-time gigs, and I've had to change my own tune. I'm changing the instrument that I'm using on how I'm marketing myself. I'm the Power BI guy. I've been doing Power BI. That's a lot of things on the resume where it's like, I got to talk about Fabric. And I think it's also changing everyone's perception around what you're looking for. our organization's going to hire just a business intelligence specialist too. So there's a few things there, but what I'm going to kick it back to you here, Mike, is if you're hiring from a business intelligence point of view, are you looking for the same skills that you were 3 years ago? Or is really just the game has changed again, where business intelligence is a part of it, but now there's a kind of a greater game here?
I like I like this question, Tommy. This is really good. And I think this is really what we're trying to unpack here. As you add on more skills. So let's talk about this commoditization of things. So let's just talk about that part. So I think this is where this begins to become more of the topic at this point, right? So you're maybe touching on what I think are like pieces of this, and I'm going to try and maybe pull some pieces together to kind of like really consolidate this one. So as if you talk about, okay, so let's talk about report building or decision support, right? In a again, let's go kind of really far back here. Before we had Power BI, it was, I'm going to be given a tool like Business Objects or Crystal Reports or something that's out there. They're just giving it to me. It's Oracle, someone has their own reporting, whatever. You're forced to go to this UI. The model's already built for you. There's no data engineering. It's basically, here's the data, and you have to do whatever you have to do to get that data out, and it's something else. Typically, that ran into the tools were limiting. I couldn't build what I wanted to build, and therefore I would print it, stick it into an Excel document, shape the data there, and then build my information on top of that. So if that was the way we were operating back in the day, what this has done is when you commoditize something, it gives more access to whatever that person can do. So the roles of that person, that analyst, expanded. And so now we have the report engineer or the report builder. Right. And so what we do now is, okay, well, there was some data modeling that was being done by a different team, data engineering likely, but now we bring that forward and say, okay, well, we've made data modeling so easy with DAX and models and reports. You can just use that in a PBIX file. So again, make a commodity, simplify it, make it easier. The barrier for someone to learn those things is now easier for you to get through. I don't have to learn all of SQL to start making effective reports, okay? The same thing's happening now again. So as you continue to simplify these roles into the tools, and the tools handle more of the legwork for you, it now becomes easier for individuals to do more in their current role. And so what I see happening here is the commoditization, the simplification, building better tools around this. The barrier to entry to have someone know more and do more is getting less and less. So I see this as kind of being like a consolidation. A traditional, if you're thinking about reporting and business analysts as you would back in the day, I think and even now, let's talk about what large language models and AI is doing. That's going to further change this even more. Like I'm even going to need to know less code to write SQL, because now we have, like, again, this is what Copilot on Home is doing. Hey, tell me about my sales. It spits out a table and writes the SQL for me based on the relationships, or writes the DAX for me inside the model. So as we continue to commoditize more and more of these things, more of these technical aspects are going to be there, but obfuscated away from the user. And so what I see happening here is there's like a convergence of technology and people building things here that is going to continually reducing the barrier for people to know more and know more. Do we have a data engineer expert in the same way we used to a couple of years ago? Probably not. We're probably not writing the same language. We're probably not writing as much code. If you're not writing as much code and you're doing it more with UI-based tools, well, what's the barrier to entry for a business analyst just to learn a little bit more about modeling, learn a little bit more about data engineering, learn a little bit more about data warehousing and lake houses? So what I think you're seeing here, Tommy, is I think that the industry is changing rapidly. And what we're doing is there's still kind of segmented roles here. But before, it was a lot more siloed, because the barrier for one person to jump between market industries, analyst to data engineer to data scientist, was so great. Now we're looking at this and going, okay, we're now pushing these silos much closer together. And if you're really good at being an analyst, you might also be good at a modeler. If you're really good at modeling, you might also be really good at data engineering, because the skills needed are being condensed, and they're still uniquely different, but the pillars are moving closer together. That's how I mentally look at this.
So You make some very profound points here, Mike, and I know you know that again, as you normally would. But I think there's something really important to what you're saying, and as I'm thinking about kind of this shift here, it's funny because what Power BI did for people working in data was bring them to the forefront. What I'm referring to is the majority of what I created and did was going to be seen by consumers, by the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I was front facing, not just in meetings with people, but what I actually created was a report that someone was going to see. But Fabric's almost pulling us back into that slight IT world because a lot of what we're creating is not going to be seen or manifested by normal consumers. You're still going to create reports, but lake houses, notebooks, the warehouse, that data integration side, like that's not what a normal user is going to see. And I think this is very profound for us, Mike, because part of, I think, when we consider business intelligence in our own careers was we were that liaison. Like I could not hide from the consumer because every visual I created was going to be seen by a wider audience,
Mm-hmm.
which is now kind of different. And I also think about that in the same fashion, in the same token, Mike, that a lot of the projects I've been doing on Fabric, I think about the low hanging fruit. What do people want to get out of the project, in the first few months to know that we're making progress or the wins? Well, if it was a pure Power BI project, they're going to want to see a dashboard. They're going to want to see a report or something in that aspect. But
Mm-hmm.
the projects I've worked on Fabric, Mike, the low hanging fruit is storing the data in Lakehouse. And it hasn't been the focus as much on a dashboard. Part of that is also an understanding that the data needs to get worked on. But I think this is very different because my low hanging fruit now, at least from my experience, is no longer consumer facing to the wider audience. And I think this is really important when we think about our role here.
I agree, Tommy, but I think this is the point here, though, is if you weren't doing that by bringing it to the lake house and doing transformations in
Yeah,
notebooks or other things, you were doing them in Power Query. It was just built into the
sure.
tool that you were using before. So all
Sure.
we're doing is, and I think what we're doing here realistically is we're building what we should have been building all along. But Power BI came out with
Yeah.
such guns a blazing and just like, let's just build a semantic model. And we build this one semantic model and we try and make it the monolithic semantic model for
Yeah.
everything. That's not really what we needed. What we needed was a common place to store all the data, an easy way to get very different data sources together, load them, incrementally load them, handle. So there is this, the principles do not change here. Fabric does not change the principles. There is a transactional world of things that are happening. There is an online analytical processing. They call this OLATP or OLAP or whatever the heck the name is. I don't really understand. It doesn't matter to me. Like there's two worlds of there's the operational database and then there's the reporting side of things, and those two worlds don't like to be summarized the same way. And you hear about this in school. I learned about this in my master's in data science. They're talking about, oh yeah, this system does it this way, it's like row based, and this system likes to do aggregations, it's different. So the fact that there are two different ways of looking at the same information, I think, is really why all this stuff stands up, right?
Yeah.
And this is the core of what we're trying to work on is, okay, how can we get the best information from these operational systems into our reporting systems? And this is where Kimball comes into play, star schema, efficient storage of data. And all of this is now being shaped into, again, what I'd like to call it's the data platform. And a term that I would
Okay.
use a lot was the modern data platform. Let's use Spark, let's use Databricks.
Yeah.
It's the modern data platform. I think now I'm just going to call it's the data platform you need.
That's
It's just essential at this point.
okay. So off of that point, from that definition, I have a few questions for you. I think that will further clarify what we're trying to achieve here. For an individual's point of view, and I will say whether you're a consultant or whether you're FTE, what's the smarter career bet? Do you market yourself as a business intelligence specialist or someone who's a data platform specialist, like in the Microsoft data platform?
Yep. Me personally, again, one thing that we've done in our company specifically is it's hard to get data shaped and formed, right? So you need people that can be able to understand where data comes from, those operational systems, and you need to be able to figure out how to get it from that thing into visuals, consumable products, Pagina reports, Power BI reports, something on the other side, the consumable side. And I liken the analogy of like you're building a bridge. You build a bridge from both directions. On one side, you take the business needs, the questions, the things they're looking to answer, and you start building out what kind of visuals would help you. What kind of things would make it easier for you to do your job? What kind of things keep you up at night? Like, Kami, you ask that question all the time. I pulled that one right from you. What's the thing that in the middle of the night you wake up thinking about your company or your data? Like that makes a lot of sense. And then the other side of things is, okay, what data do I have to support that? So just because you're asking the question doesn't necessarily mean the data you're going to give it is going to support it. And so sometimes you try and bring those two together and the two bridges miss.
Right.
And so then you have to realign expectations. You have to either change your requirements on the report side, or you have to go find additional data so that way you actually meet in the middle. The data I'm bringing in actually answers the questions I'm trying to deliver. So I think that to me, and this is a mantra that I think is also going to happen in AI as well with programming. We are going to find the senior and more seasoned developers are going to become more effective. They're going to be able to write more code, build more apps quickly because they can basically product manage the AI agents to go build the code that they want. Right. So all those things are like really, really important. Thanks, Donald, for the drink on us tonight. I appreciate the sponsorship there. I appreciate it for throwing something out there. So, but that's where we're at, though. I think we're getting to this place where you can't throw one of these things out without the other. I really agree with Donald's point that he made earlier. Like, look, let's just talk about what we really want. Wherever the data comes from, however fast it gets there, we want all the data to be in this massive database. Whatever you would put it in, I don't care what you put it in. It needs to be this massive database with all the data we'd ever care about. And then we need to be able to pluck at that data and pull out what we need when we need it. That's really what we're doing here. Right. And we're trying to find patterns in how we bring the data in and patterns on what questions are being asked out so we can build efficient, cost-effective ways of doing this. Like if you had an unlimited budget, no money, you just would suck in all the data and let people just build whatever the heck they want on top of the system. But we're always constrained by this time and money thing that continues to like have us like pare down, scale back, build only what's essential. That's the balancing force of like just throw everything into like one massive database.
So this is the reasons I love these conversations. I'm going to expand on that. I have a few questions for you, but I've been going through this conversation today, and as I've been thinking about this question in general, is data engineering eating business intelligence in terms of definition, the perception that people have? And that's kind of where I've been thinking before we've talked today, is the term business intelligence is going to, in a sense, sell the stock if from the definition point of view, if you looked at resumes. But I think the way that we're talking about this, Mike, it's the other way around. I don't know if the industry is going to adapt that, but to me, I'm looking at this and what we're talking about based on the constraints that we put. To me, business intelligence is going to eat the definition of data engineering and data science. Because I know we're saying data platform here, but really it sounds more like we're really just expanding what business intelligence is. The problem is going to be whether or not the industry as a whole and organizations understand that difference, right? Because to your point, I'm considering this now as we talk about this, that business intelligence has just expanded. It has grown and it evolved. That's probably the better word. It's evolved now into these aspects where data engineering is a part of business intelligence. Now, the problem is whether or not that gets adopted. Like that's my definition. But hey, at the end of the day, Mike, we got to market ourselves the way people are writing the resumes and the job descriptions, right? Like, so, and that's going to be the problem here. So like whoever's listening, if you are in charge of definitions and things like that, call it Fabric BI. I don't care, but this has always been my problem with our industry as a whole anyways, is we don't have like, hey, you're a business intelligence specialist, level 1, level 2. I could find 8 different titles with the same job descriptions, or 8 the same titles that have all different job descriptions. We're always going to run into this. We're adding more confusion to it. But for me, Mike, I'm looking at this, and what I want to start marketing or I want to start pushing is Fabric is an evolution of business intelligence. It's not necessarily now all these other were 6 careers. This to me is just the new game of BI. So I don't know. Do you agree with that? Do you think that the term business intelligence is going to expand or, in a sense, shrink in terms of when you look at job descriptions and what people are looking for?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how all of these new tools are affecting what companies are looking for. I mean,
Right.
Tommy, you and I were looking at Power BI, and all of a sudden it was like build reports. Okay, that quickly got outpaced by build reports and model a bunch of data. Now we're going to start seeing build reports, model data, and do all this fabric stuff as well. And it's all going to be like the business analyst person, right? I mean, if you hire a really sharp person, you can get away with one person who knows how to do it all. I mean, we're getting to a place where you could have enough projects. The technology's been out long enough now. You might have had a real-time analytics project. You might have had a data warehousing project. You might so the longer this goes, the more time people have had an ability to go use all the different products of Microsoft, right? So I think, to me, what I think is going to happen is companies are going to want it all and pay as little as they can. That's just how companies are.
I mean, is that new?
Not new. This is not new. This does not change. So what I think is going to happen is the scope of knowledge is going to continue to increase for that business analyst or that business developer of reports. And so again, let's also add to this AI. Let's add in the flavor of that. How does that change this as well? So, are you good? This I think goes across all industries, all different disciplines. Hey, Tommy, I'm going to hire you for my company. How do you use AI to make your job more effective and faster? It doesn't matter. Like, this is a game-changing experience for everyone in every industry across every place of the data space, I think, because now you can be like, well, I've been learning prompting, and this is how I prompt. This is the patterns I use for prompting, and how it helps me is it lets me do all these extra experiences. Again, the point here is you need to be at a level where you can prompt the right terms to get the right desired output. Who cares? I mean, people care.
Say it.
I'm going to say it like it is, but I'm going to maybe soften the blow a little bit. But who cares if you really know SQL to the nth degree? The AI agent that I pay $50 or $100 a month to knows way more SQL than I'll ever know. And this is my point. My point has been, like, if I need to take this table of data and shape it from this thing to that thing, I could say, here's the starting definition of the table. Here's the ending definition of the table. Do this in M. Boom, AI knows how to do it. Do this in SQL. Boom, AI knows how to do it. Do it in Python. Boom, SQL knows how to do it. I can even take great code from one area and say, hey, I have this .NET script, whatever or I have this PowerShell script. Turn this into Python. And it will know, it'll understand it, flip it around, and output the same thing. So this is the skill over all other skills. That is the skill that I think we all must learn, because for the barrier or price to have an unlimited code knowledge study buddy with you, basically, at all times. Like, this is like when I was in high school, and they're like, you're never going to have a calculator on you at all times. You got to learn your multiplication. I'm like, I wasn't learning multiplication.
Don't tell my kids that, yeah. So.
But it doesn't matter. Like, I've got two calculators on me at all the time. Like, I have one on my watch and I have one in my pocket, no matter what. Like, I never am around anything that doesn't have a calculator on me anymore. So there's the technology pieces are getting so different now. And I think the new world here is AI is here to stay. It's not going to take our jobs, but it's going to make your job change. And if you're not willing to learn how to use it to leverage that inside what you do daily, the other person on the hiring list will get your job. And not only will they get your job, they're going to be able to be more effective at the job than you, because they're going to be able to say, well, it doesn't matter if it's SQL. I can ask the AI to explain it to me, and I can understand what's going on. The core pieces of this, what skills are going to matter in the next 10 years? It's going to be communication. How well can you communicate? It's going to be how well can you build requirements for AI things, agents, whatever. And it's going to be how well can you kind of debug the AI. I think there's going to be a whole realm of crap AI code and things that have been generated. And there's already resumes out there that are the AI cleanup job, right?
Fix
We
it.
built an app. It was all built by AI. It's a bunch of trash. Okay, well now you got to go back through and like kind of like, okay, we understand how the prototype works. We've got to reshape it into something that's actually functional and can be maintained. So there's a whole new world that's just at our fingertips, and this whole data engineering space is going to be drastically changed by AI and how you build these data pipes. Anyways,
So yeah, and
sorry, I went way off the rails on that one.
I loved every second of that, and I'm just gonna briefly say the AI thing because I've said a ton on AI, and I'm gonna keep saying things, but I'm gonna sum up what you said to really this. If you're listening, if I'm in an interview with you and I'm interviewing you, and I say, "How do you use AI in your day to day?" They go, "No, I don't really use it." My next words are, "Thank you for your time."
Yep.
I'm done. Like, honestly,
Yep.
I'm at that point now, Mike, where I'm realizing the efficiency. They say for consultants, it should save 20% of time easy. And they're finding that already. And I'm seeing that in my day to day, both from soft skills, like helping from documentation to the coding. And there's so many aspects of this. And again, good job, Microsoft, because they're putting a lot of investment into Copilot. And the last few weeks, Mike, is the first time I've been impressed with Copilot in Fabric, where I'm
This
going,
could take
okay,
time.
I see
Yeah.
you, Fabric, like the first
Mhm.
time, instead of going, forget it. Because
Yep.
again, you're not going to, if you're doing AI, you're either in love with the tooling or you're not going to use it. There's no in between. And I think finally we're seeing that with Copilot. And so I want to mention that dude, we're already near time. And what I'm realizing now when we think about this conversation, the AI, data engineering, data science, I've always said, and I'm to this point, that these are 6 careers combined into one. But what I'm hearing today, and I think I'm coming to the conclusion, Mike, that this is just an end-to-end analytics solution. There are components of data engineering, but if I have Copilot and honestly, the ease of getting something started, because again, half the battle with data engineering was the resources and the architecture of it in
Yep.
Azure, which
Yep.
was a pain in the whatever it was kind of thing.
Yep.
I want to say it because it deserves that, but
Pain in the boonda, as
another,
we like to say.
yeah, pain in the boondocks kind of thing. So, but to your point, Mike, like a business can create a lake house and do an art medallion approach. They're
Mhm.
not a data engineer. They're doing those components. I
Mhm.
think the terminology is going to change to what we think that, hey, you're a data scientist, you're a data engineer. I think that's going to be eaten up by in a sense, an analytics architect or something like that. That is where we see this going. Part of that is the ease of use. Part of that is AI being integrated into this because again,
Mhm.
Microsoft did something with Fabric. And I listen, if you're listening, you're like, wow, they're really tooting Microsoft's horn. Go listen to other episodes where,
There's other AI agents
yeah,
that are way
yeah,
better than Copilot.
way
Like
better.
I will
Yeah,
say Claude is by far and the best, the tool that
the
I'm
best
using a
coding
lot more,
one. Yeah,
best coding one. But this is the point though. Microsoft is still playing catch up, and even they're still
right.
catching up.
Well,
They're
I'm
still producing good stuff now. Like
right, and I'm saying more than just the AI. I'm saying the solution.
yeah,
If you think that we are just, praising Microsoft for all the things they've done, go listen to our copy job one. Go listen to everything else where we just like we are vehemently disagree with the direction with some things. But I'm going to give the credit. I'm going to give the flowers where they're due here, Mike. Fabric, and I'm realizing this more, and I'm coming to the conclusion. I'm seeing the light here where the way they changed careers and disrupted what a job looked like in data when Power
yes,
BI came out,
agree.
we're going to see that. And I don't think we've seen it yet. I don't think we've seen
Still
the
changing.
impact of that yet, kind of
Correct.
thing. And we're in that. I honestly think we're in the beginning of the disruption phase. So to answer the question, is Microsoft Business Intelligence? Yes, it is. But what's changing is the definition of business intelligence.
I like that. I think I'll go with that. I agree. All right, let's wrap it here. This has been a good episode. It seems like every episode at some point just kind of falls into like the pit of AI, and we just talk about AI by the end of the episode. I don't know. It's such top of mind, and it's so pervasive in this space. It's very exciting. It's also changing very fast, and so I like being able to unpack where AI fits in these spaces and what do we like. Again, how would you hire? I think a lot of these questions are if you're a hiring manager, if you're looking for skills in your team, like this is stuff that's changing. It's
Yeah.
it's dynamic right now. So Very interesting. That being said, thank you all very much. If you like this podcast, if you found some value from this, would you please consider becoming a member? We've got a membership thing going now, and we are releasing all the episodes with no advertisements. If you'd like to come back later, watch them on YouTube, all of our new ads, and you'll start seeing more of our content come out with no ads. That will be all in the members area. So if you like the content that we have, if you want to get access to that content without any advertisements, please consider sponsoring down below. We'd really appreciate your support here so we can do more things with the podcast. We'd like to do more with this and continue to grow this as well. That being said, Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And please subscribe, leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. And share with your friends, share on the YouTubes and the LinkedIns and the Twitters and whatever you want to do, because it really means a lot to us to see what people think about what we're doing. If you actually disagree with us today, if you have another question on what we're talking about, or just something in general around Microsoft's data platform, leave us a question, and you can go to powerbi.tips/podcast. Please leave your name. We want to give you a shout out and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central on all of powerbi.tips social media channels.
I'm going to say you're going to want to stay tuned with the next 3 months of podcasts, October, November, December. We've got some incredible guests teed up.
Gosh.
It's going to be extremely exciting. So if you're not paying attention already, please make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell button down below so you know when we're going to be making more episodes. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, 7:30 a.m., rain or shine, basement or no basement. We will be here. We're going to do the best I can to keep this going every single week and keep providing you really good discussion content around things, and also bringing experts to this as well. We're not the end all be alls on all this knowledge. There's a lot of other people who know great things as well. And we're going to continue bringing experts to this space to continue talking and unpacking Fabric, data platform, and all these things. Thank you all so much. We appreciate your listenership, and we'll see you next time.